4. Animism, shield of protection. In the previous segment, I discussed how early animistic religions like Shintoism saw the world run on spirits or energy, and to harness the good spirits, certain rituals were necessary. Religions like Shintoism mainly focused on celebrating survival, not death. In this segment, I'll focus on how animistic religions dealt with the dead. Apart from food and shelter, our nomadic ancestors struggled with two other elements they couldn't control: traveling in time and traversing long distances. Since they had to move long distances, sometimes they had to leave their loved ones behind. Also, time travel is not possible, so animism took those problems into account to create ways you could communicate with those far away and long gone. We crave the ability to talk to those who have passed away or those who live in distant lands. To solve this, humans came up with shamanism, which is still prevalent in the vastly expansive regions of Northern Europe, Russia, and Canada, where people live somewhat isolated lives. A. Communicate with the dead. Shamanism is still practiced in the coldest parts of the world, like among the Siberian tribes, the Canadian Inuits, the Vikings, and the Samis in Finland, and the Mongolians. In shamanism, certain individuals, i.e. the shamans, are chosen ones who have a great power to time travel or travel to another world in order to bring back information, knowledge, cure for illnesses, and other solutions to human survival problems. But why do we need that? In a world where there is no writing to keep memories past a few generations, you need a way to access the old people's wisdom when it comes to solving problems. One of the saddest things about humanity is that the most skilled, the wisest, and the most altruistic people die. And they take all their skills and knowledge which they spent a lifetime to acquire with them to the grave. Among early humans, when someone got sick, you had to rely on the wisdom of the elders. Or you ask a shaman to seek cure by going through a trance-like state called vision quest, when they leave their body and go on a spiritual journey to access the spirits which cure sickness. So being a healer is one of the primary roles of the shamans, who are able to communicate between different realms of reality. To be able to do that, the shamans have to prepare their body for this journey by walking in the freezing cold temperature, intense dance or music, or taking some psycho-altering mushroom or alcoholic beverage, perhaps to loosen them up, to make it easier for them to shake the current reality out of them. To facilitate this precarious journey, others offer the shaman some offerings of gift, but most importantly, guard them to make sure they wake up. I personally witnessed a shaman quest in Mongolia. Sitting inside a very cold yurt, the shaman was a young man who started drinking alcohol, and after a few minutes, his voice changed as though he was a different person. I couldn't understand the language, but several people came to ask about their problems and get information about their loved ones. This went for hours. Shamanism is particularly popular among the nomadic people who move constantly from place to place. This is why you need someone who can travel through consciousness or in time. As nomads move, they often bury their loved ones behind. This requires you to have a way to be in touch with them and when you're no longer near them. So for early humans, when your parents died, they went somewhere because how could they abandon you? It just didn't make sense, and the people who loved you the most couldn't really leave you without protection. So shamanism was a way to be in touch with them so they could still help you in this life. Since animism believes that spirits never die, just as modern physics states that energy is always conserved, early humans found a way to communicate with the spirits of those who passed away. This is why animistic religions made it part of their religious mission to communicate with the dead and get solution to their problems from those who passed away, because it's all about survival. Since the dead are not really dead in animistic religions, they also need nourishment. So how can you feed the dead? B. Appease the dead. Evolution is blind. Living organisms blindly throw a hook until they catch something to climb on. Then it moves in that direction until it reaches a burning fire, which kills it. Then another organism tries it again and finally finds water. This evolutionary process of trial and error continues for thousands and millions of years. Also, for a species to survive, the death of the individual plants and the individual animal is not important. In religious evolution, there are dark episodes where humans took things to the extreme. The most famous example is the blood sacrifice, which existed in every part of the world. As a tribal species, humans have always valued courage and self-sacrifice, especially on the battlefield and against enemies. But then the idea of sacrifice itself became a thing in itself, resulting in sacrificial rituals even in peacetime to prevent future wars and act as a deterrent. In the Americas, this question of dead ancestors took a very sinister turn. Now, the dead ancestors or the gods were not there to help us, but we are here to help them. In other words, we need to return the favor by killing some of our own people to please our ancestors and gods. Among the Incas, the Aztecs, and the Mayans, blood sacrifice became an important religious ritual. So in order to continue receiving help from our ancestors, the Andean tribes of Incas believed that the land which they cultivated needed blood and fat. To achieve this, human sacrifice was necessary. So they would sacrifice elderly people, outcasts, criminals, and even their own children to appease the spirits of their dead ancestors so they keep their land fertile. Since the land was passed down from their ancestors, you become the borrower of the land. How do you pay your ancestors who are not there? When you borrow money from a bank or a lending agency, you pay interest. But our early ancestors paid the interest by cutting someone's arms and bleeding them to death. Today, if you borrow money from the mafia and fail to pay, they come and do that for you. So the animistic religions of South America did the sacrifice preemptively so the dead ancestors wouldn't get mad at them and inflict disasters on them. This is why most of us pay our credit card debt on time. Otherwise, the penalty would be too high. Further north in Central America, first among the Mayans and later among the Aztecs, this blood sacrifice became not of a cult of dead ancestors worship, but it was done in the name of the gods. Here the belief was that while creating humans, the world and the sun, the gods had to work really hard, shedding sweat, blood and tears, so much so that they turned pale as they were running out of blood. Now it's incumbent upon us to return the favor by bleeding ourselves to donate blood back to the gods. The gods, as well as the sun, didn't need money or food. They needed your blood because they lost their blood by creating humans. The Red Cross bus was busy looking for volunteers, but not everyone was volunteering themselves. So the Mayans and the Aztecs turned to those who had no autonomy of choice. They mainly sacrificed prisoners of wars, slaves, and children. The ritual was performed by priests. A group of priests would hold the victim from 4 limbs and then cut their heart, believing that the heart came from the sun's energy. So basically returning it back to the sun. This became so widespread that in 1487, just 5 years before Columbus reached the Americas, it is believed that some 20,000 to 80,000 people were sacrificed by the Aztecs alone. Usually these people were captured from other tribes during wars. While some animistic religions like Shintoism in Japan are all about celebrating this life, others, like the ones in Central America, are all about sacrificing people to appease the gods and the ancestors. However, it's not exclusive to the Americas. Blood sacrifice or blood ritual was widely practiced throughout the world. Even in the Christian and Islamic myth, Abraham wanted to sacrifice his own son. Later on, instead of humans, animals were sacrificed, and to this day, Muslims sacrifice a goat or a sheep when they attend the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. Blood sacrifice was common in ancient Egypt and China, which can be seen in the Chinese writing system. Since blood was always associated with life and life energy, as the most precious thing, it was also offered to the dead and the god. Animistic religions have survived in the cold, hostile, and remote parts of the world, while in the rest of the world, animism was replaced by more sophisticated religions like Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. The myth of Abel and Cain perhaps symbolizes the transition from hunting to farming as the farmer Cain kills the hunter Abel. So animism is basically religion 1.0. Most animistic religions don't have a written text, no prophet, or sophisticated philosophy. In other words, animism is less concerned with beliefs, ideas, philosophy, but more concerned with actions, rituals, and offerings, which are tangible. It is more animated than contemplative, more active than thoughtful, more practical than idealistic or philosophical. So animism relied on energy or spirit, which could be channeled in order to enhance life, just as we do with electricity today. In some cases, animism channeled the energy to communicate with the dead, heal illnesses, predict the future, as in shamanism, or concentrated the energy through purification rituals, as in Shintoism. But sometimes this energy turned into dark energy when the blood of some humans were spilled to give energy back to gods or ancestors. So animism and modern capitalism have a lot in common. In the next segment, we will move away from the mere survival of the nomadic hunter-gatherers to the religions of the settled farmers. Nomads tend to move on when they have a conflict, but settled farmers have to settle the conflict one way or another. Now, religion is not just a mediator between humans and the natural world, but it also does conflict resolution among humans.